Are you, like many others, trying to make sense of what's going on in the world? Thankfully, we can find some insight in the Bible. So come with us on a journey to unraveling Revelation.
Good morning. It's Father's Day here in Australia, and we're all in lockdown. Today, I want to talk to you about something very, very important. I'm going to cut straight to the chase. If you haven't seen my other 3 videos, and if you're watching this on Facebook, scroll back and watch the previous 3 videos, or this is not going to make any sense. In today's teaching, I'm going to demonstrate from the book of Revelation that pharmaceuticals, yes, medicines, are going to be used as a means of controlling the world. Now, bear me out. Let's have a look what the Greek text says, and then you can make your own conclusions, okay? Let me read to you from Revelation 18, 22 to 24. It says this: "The sound of harpists and musicians and flute players and trumpeters will never be heard in you again, Babylon." Speaking to Babylon. "No worker of any trade will ever be found in you again, Babylon. The sound of a mill will never be heard in you again, Babylon. The light of the lamp will never shine in you again, Babylon. The voice of the bridegroom and the bride will never be heard in you again." Why? "For your businessmen were the most powerful on the earth." Stop. Here we've got a judgment called out upon Babylon, this woman, prostitute woman of Revelation 17. And we're reading from Revelation 18, 22 to 24. Speaking to Babylon, God says, you're judged. You've had it. Why? Because your businessmen were the most powerful on earth. Babylon has businessmen. And these businessmen are working in union with Babylon to do something that brings judgment on Babylon. What did these businessmen in union with Babylon do? Businessmen do with Babylon to bring judgment on Babylon. "For your businessmen were the most powerful on earth, and as a result, all the nations were deceived by your magic spell." Businessmen in union with Babylon cast a magic spell on all the nations, and they were deceived. Folks, the English words magic spell there are not in the Greek. They are not in the Greek. We have been misled. It doesn't mean magic spells. It doesn't mean sorcery. It doesn't mean witchcraft. We've been misled by the English translators. I'm going to tell you what these businessmen selling stuff in union with Babylon, how Babylon and the businessmen selling stuff deceive the nations. What's this Greek word? The Greek word there, translated into English sloppily as magic spell, is, you ready for it? Pharmakeia. Pharmaceia. That's the Greek word. It's where we get our English word pharmaceuticals. Pharmacy. Big pharma. Let me read to you what this word actually means in the Greek, and I'm going to read from some Greek dictionaries. Are you ready? Here we go. I'm going to turn it around. It's going to be backwards. There's nothing else I can do. If someone's rich and they want to buy me a proper recording studio so I can do this professionally, I'm open, yeah? But I'm going to have to turn this around to you, and you can read it backwards. I just cut and paste this from various Greek dictionaries. Here we go. All right? There it is. Now I'm going to have to turn it around and read it to you, okay? It says, let's see if I can get it in. Here we go. There we go. Is that not bad? Good. The New American Standard Bible, New Testament Greek Lexicon. And it's based on Strong's Concordance 5331. The original word is pharmakeia. There it is. Pharmakeia. Transliterated word. Pharmakeia, that's how you say it. What does it mean? Look, the use or the administering of drugs. The use or the administering of drugs. How the heck did they get magic spell out of this? The Greek word is pharmakeia. It means the use or the administering of drugs. Administering drugs. Applying drugs to people. Look at Strong's Concordance on pharmakeia. There it is. Okay? I'm going to read it to you now. Strong's Concordance, pharmakeia, biblical usage, the use or the administering of drugs. Here they're telling you how it's translated in English, witchcraft and sorcery. But that's not what the word means. The Greek word, that's there, it is there, pharmakeia, means the use or the administering of drugs. So people are administering drugs. We got another one here. That was Strong's Concordance. Oh, no, sorry, that was the lexicon. Strong's Concordance. Here we go. I'll give you another one, yeah? You can get these on the internet. Here we go, yeah? And it's telling you the places where it's used in classical Greek literature. Xenophon, Plato, Polybius. This is actually part of the last quote. It's the use or the administering of drugs. So let's stop right here, okay? Book of Revelation talks about judgment coming on Babylon. Why? Because Babylon, I'll read it again. Revelation 18, 22 to 24, quoting from the complete Jewish Bible. And it says, the sound of harpists, etc., won't be heard in you anymore, Babylon. You're going to be judged. Why? For your businessmen were the most powerful on earth, and all nations were deceived by your pharmakeia. Businessmen selling pharmakeia, the use or administering of drugs. Who are the only ones that are business people administering drugs? Businessmen, big, powerful businessmen. Your businessmen were the most powerful. Your businessmen were the most powerful on earth. Big business involved with selling drugs, deceiving all the nations. Folks, it's what the Greek says. You can twist and turn this all you want, but that's what it means. The use or administering of drugs, and businessmen, big powerful businessmen, the most powerful on earth, connected with drugs to deceive the world. Which businesses are involved in drugs? Selling of drugs, medicine. Big Pharma. Aren't Big Pharma the most powerful business people on the planet? Now you're saying, oh, Santo, you're reading sci-fi. I'm just telling you what the Greek text says. Pharmakeia means the use or administering of drugs, and it's in connection with Babylon and its businessmen, the great businessmen of the world administering drugs. Well, which businesses are involved? Garbage collection with drugs. Pharmaceutical companies. Babylon, who is that? Another time. But it's Babylon in union with big pharmaceuticals, big business administering drugs. Babylon and its big, most powerful business people in the world administering drugs to deceive all nations. Not some, all nations, and deceive all nations. And it says here in the next verse, verse 24, that the true followers of Jesus won't. They won't succumb. They won't submit. For your businessmen were the most powerful on earth, and all the nations were deceived by your pharmakeia, pharmaceuticals. In Babylon was found the blood of the prophets and of God's people, indeed, all who have ever been slain on the earth. So you're God's people that will not be controlled and take the drugs of Babylon, the pharmacia, the pharmaceuticals of Babylon, and the business selling the pharmaceuticals, and they get killed. Folks, I haven't interpreted the text. I've just told you what the Greek text actually says. Now, is what we're seeing a fulfillment of this? I don't know, and I'm not going to put my head on the chopping block, but I'm saying this, that a time in history is recorded in the book of Revelation where this evil power Babylon, and I'm yet to identify this power, and I will in the next few videos, Babylon, in conjunction with the big, powerful business people of the world, are administering drugs that deceive. What does it mean deceives? It acts on your thinking capabilities. Mind-controlling, mind-altering drugs deceive the nations. That's what deceive means. So John is clearly talking about a global event where Babylon and big business unite with administering drugs with the goal to deceiving, changing the way you think, controlling the way you think, all nations. It's global. It's what the text says. Let me read to you from William Barclay. You know William Barclay? Anyone knows anything about Greek knows that William Barclay was the greatest Greek scholar of the modern era. And he has written a book called Flesh and Spirit, and he tells us the history of this word pharmakeia. Okay? William Barclay, Flesh and Spirit, page 36. Barclay says, pharmakeia began to denote the misuse of drugs. It first meant just medicine, not a problem. Pharmakeia, pharmaceuticals, just meant medicine. But within time, pharmakeia began to denote the misuse of drugs. That is, the use of drugs to poison and not to cure. To poison and not to cure. So we read about the law regarding poisoning in Plato, and Demosthenes accuses a bad man poisoning pharmakeia, all kinds of villainy. That's Demosthenes. This is the beginning of the bad use of the word. In the New Testament, he says, pharmakeia carried with it the idea of sorcery. Hang on. It ended up carrying, when you misused medicines, pharmaceuticals, it then became sorcery. He's going to tell us now the sorcery is not witches and goblins and with big hats and stuff like that. He's saying using pharmaceuticals for a wrong reason to control people's thinking. That's sorcery. It's not hocus pocus. Yeah? Listen to what he says. In the New Testament, pharmakeia carried with it the idea of sorcery, occultism, and black magic. It is in this sense that Paul used the term in Galatians 5:20. The International Standard Bible Encyclopedia clearly points out that, quote, since the ideas we attach to witch and witchcraft were unknown in Bible times. Witch and witchcraft. They didn't have this stuff, black hats and spells and that. No. Witchcraft and sorcery back then was using pharmaceuticals to control people's minds. That's sorcery. And that's why they have gone with sorcery in most English translations of that verse. But sorcery today doesn't mean what sorcery meant in Bible times. Today, sorcery means casting spells and doing all this kind of stuff. Sorcery, back in Bible days, was people using and abusing drugs to control people's minds to deceive them. That's sorcery. And that's why they've gone with sorcery. But sorcery doesn't mean what it means today. Back then, it just meant people using and administering drugs to poison people's minds to deceive them. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's why they put sorcery there. But the English word sorcery doesn't mean what it meant back 2,000 years ago. And it says, since the ideas we attach to witch and witchcraft were unknown in Bible times, the words witch and witchcraft have no right place in our English Bible. That's page 3097 in the International Standard Bible Encyclopedia. They're saying we're being misled when the English translators put witch, witchcraft, source, or sorcery. It just means the abuse of drugs, the poisoning of the mind to deceive, to control your thinking. And the followers of Jesus won't cave in to these drugs. Apply it how you want, but the text is clear. It describes a time in history where all nations It's a global scene where a woman called Babylon unites with big business who are selling drugs, selling pharmaceuticals, administering pharmaceuticals, and they're businessmen administering. They're making money out of it. Pharmaceutical businessmen are going to be poisoning the minds of all nations to deceive them. But the church won't partake and will be martyred. What point in history is this? You can make up your own mind. In the next videos, we need to identify who Babylon is. Yeah? It's clear that the big business is mentioned in there, and they are implementing drugs to deceive, but it's the woman, Babylon, in conjunction with these big business people who are administering drugs to deceive the nations. Who is this woman, Babylon? Next time.